Fit for Life Radio, episode number 92. Your hosts, Gary and Will. We're here, just us today.
What up?
We're going to be doing a listener Q&A. Haven't done one of these in a while. Kind of more rapid fire.
Yeah, we'll just go through all of these questions.
Answer these questions. Go into much detail as we can or necessary. It's kind of a broad spectrum of thingies. Yeah.
I say we just jump to it.
Let's jump right in.
Let's get it.
So we have a couple that are somewhat related to late nights. So let's go through those first since they're somewhat related. The first one is from Jordy, also known as Jorps on Instagram.
Jorts?
Jorps.
Oh, I thought you meant like jean shorts, like I'm wearing.
That'd be a good tag.
Jorts. Just jort. That's it. Jorts. You were the first one.
She asks training clients with insomnia. So
there's a lot of.
I'm not sure completely.
Variability.
What I take from is she's wondering kind of maybe the parameters, how you would handle someone who's just not sleeping, staying up late.
Sleep is terrible.
You want to get the official definition of insomnia?
I got you.
And it's one of those words, right, where people maybe use it as like, hey, I'm just a night owl, or maybe that you're clinically diagnosed with insomnia.
Yeah. So insomnia is a common sleep disorder that can make it hard to fall asleep, hard to stay asleep, or cause you to wake up too early and not be able to go back to sleep.
So
that's real broad.
Yeah.
More broad than I actually expected it to be.
And you could really address it maybe with tons of sleep hygiene stuff, which we'll do a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
But let's just take it as, hey, you have sleep apnea. Sleep apnea.
Sleep apnea.
It's like a mix of sleep apnea
and insomnia.
Yes, struggle kind of up all night. How would we train that client? So actually in reality, we would try to address
the sleep,
the insomnia. But if you're not, one simple thing is, when do you train? Because do we have another question around that about? I don't know. So
no, someone asked about a split.
Oh, dude, another person. We have another one. So then we have one on managing recovery with newborns because of constant lack of sleep.
Okay.
And then we also have why can lifting weights cause irritability and insomnia afterwards?
These all roll together.
Is everyone just staying up all night?
I guess, man.
Staring.
We're the only people with bedtimes. So this can be.
Dude, we got to do sleep. We got to do sleep.
We can do it. We'll do a sleep one next. But so if you train too late, straight up, and I'm the same way. This is why I have to train early. It ramps you up. Your adrenaline's up. Your heart rate's going to be up. Your nervous system's more excited, and that alone will just make you not sleep. Right? You're not in your rest and recovery stage. You're the complete opposite after training. And so if you're training at 8 p.m. and you're expecting to sleep by 10:30, it's probably just not going to happen.
Because you're gonna get a shot of adrenaline and everything. And if you go back, we touched a little bit on our episode with Madeline on circadian rhythms, which so working out late, getting that adrenaline pumping, kind of when it's dark out or getting to be, it's gonna kind of work against your circadian rhythm. That really
messes everything
right?
up.
So then you factor in also there's tons of bright lights. Then if you go home and you're looking at a screen of some sort, TV, phone, computer, more bright lights, more having your brain turned on, looking at stuff that's going to kind of
stimulate you.
Yep. So working out just kind of falls into all those things and against our natural circadian rhythm. So then becomes a habit, and then now habitually your circadian rhythms are jacked up. So if you do have insomnia,
we can give a couple takeaways. One, check your training time.
So one is, let's just take it as this is how I am, and I can't fix this right now.
Yeah.
So what can I do? Try to be consistent with your schedule. So, okay, if you're going to be up all night, still try to have some kind of time where you go to bed and darken things and get some sleep. So it really come down to, I would say, I would try to take the client and make their schedule as consistent as possible in that framework.
Yep.
So consistent meal times, consistent exercise time, consistent sleep time. And really you could take this too. Another question similar could be, I work night shifts. What's the best thing to do, right? So you have to be up all night.
You have to have a schedule when you do that.
That's I would say get everything set, which is really the same too for someone who sleeps at night and would be up during the day. But yeah, ultimately, no, it's not ideal just because we're not nocturnal.
Yeah.
But try to be consistent. So again, yeah, the main things, your meal times, your sleep times, your wake times, your
workout
exercise
times.
time, be as consistent as possible with those things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one.
So hopefully that helps. Now let's slide on over to, it was Tim.
Tim?
Mr. Tim. Tim, I don't want to say his, let's see here.
We don't have to say last names if you don't want to. Just Tim.
Geppert.
Gipper.
That's what I'm going with.
All right.
All right, Tim. So Tim asked, why can lifting weights cause irritability and insomnia afterwards, and strategies to prevent it? So kind of went over that. So it can cause insomnia if you're doing it in the evening, close to bedtime. Again, because it's gonna jack up some cortisol. It's gonna get adrenaline pumping. So yeah, just literally causes a cascade of events in our body that stimulates us.
That's the opposite of going to sleep, basically.
Yeah. So I'm gonna assume, for the most part, you're talking about, if you lift weights early, you're not going to have those problems. Or if you're having insomnia and you lift weights early in the day, it's not because of lifting weights.
Yeah, it's not your problem.
The cause and irritability, so that could also be blood sugar stuff. So working out can cause, depending on your diet, but an acute drop in blood sugar, right? So which can make you irritable. I'm sure, as people know, if you have a huge meal that makes your insulin spike high, then it just tanks really low and you almost get hypoglycemic. That causes you to be hangry, right?
Yep.
That's what's known as hangry, where people eat very frequently. You're on that carbohydrate.
And all of a sudden you get cut off.
Up and down. So when you work out, it's going to cause some of those things to happen, and that's what could cause the irritability and also the insomnia. So solution, real quick, first off would be have a higher carb meal after you train and in the evening. So higher carbs is going to help produce more serotonin in your brain, which is the happy hormone. It's also going to counter that dip of blood sugar, and it is carbs are anti-stress, right? So they help your body. They're the opposite of cortisol. Yeah.
So they kind of bring you down a little bit.
So they're going to help kind of counter that, right? So and it's kind of known, a lot of people going like, oh, do you need to get carbs in right after you work out to refill your glycogen? And people used to think that you had to do that like in an hour, and it's not. It's more, you have like 48 hours.
Yeah, just in general, like you'll probably do it if you eat that day.
Yeah, so you don't necessarily have to rush for those reasons. But separate from that, specific to, hey, let me manage any irritability or try to switch myself into a parasympathetic state. So when we exercise, we're in that fight or flight. You want to turn that switch off, get into parasympathetic, rest, digest, relax. So if you do have to work out in the afternoon, close to bed, I would save most of your carbs or plan to have a higher carb meal at that time. So you get the benefit of, it's post-workout, so it is going to be kind of taken up by your muscles, and it's close to bed. It's going to help cause that serotonin, rest and digest, anti-stress. So that would really probably be the best simple, practical
I like that a lot.
Tip for managing those things.
That's probably the best one. I think that had the biggest impact.
Yeah.
It's funny how some people do that naturally. Like there's some people at the gym, they're like, oh, I work out and I sleep so well, I just go home and eat and then go to bed. I'm like, damn, I wish I could do that. But I think they just switch into that parasympathetic so easily compared to more high-strung people.
And like we said on the first one, if you do something does get to be really routine, then there becomes a certain comfort with that.
Oh, yeah.
So you can kind of, fall into place somewhat. So with those things, carbs are going to be your friend in that post-workout meal and before bed.
Yep.
To manage that. And ultimately, if in an ideal world, so again, if you have control over your schedule more so, then I would just work out earlier in the day.
Yeah.
If that's something you struggle with, like that would be step one if you can, just work out earlier, move your workout away from nighttime. And don't be afraid of carbohydrates.
No.
They are a tool. You know, I get pissed when you hear like people will always be like, they're not an essential nutrient, you know, which is true. The only
Technically, yeah.
There's a few amino acids and a few fatty acids you have to have. Carbs are not essential, but
They still help.
You know, a super active lifestyle is not essential either. We just, you know, like that's like something we can do because of our current environment that we've created.
And carbs can support that.
And carbs are a tool to support high activity levels. So not just for like, oh, carbohydrates is fuel. It's also hormonal responses and things like that it affects majorly. So keep that in mind. Then the third one on this insomnia train we had from
just the baby one.
Chev. My man, he I think he just had a baby, newer father, and he asked, which would make sense, managing recovery with newborns. So constant interrupted lack of sleep.
So, I mean, first and foremost, like realizing, we've talked about this before, like with just stress, but like you can't overfill your bucket, and sometimes you have to turn your dial down with how much stress you know you're dealing with. So a newborn baby's a lot, you know, like you're not sleeping, it takes up a lot more of your time, so you only have but so much to put towards training. So one thing could be just maybe turning your dial down and not, you know, if you normally train every day, well, maybe train 3 days a week or 4 days a week, and making sure that you're keeping that habit consistent, but you may have to do a little bit less just to ensure that you're able to recover and not overdo it, basically. Like that's probably the biggest one. Another one is just to keep your schedule, like we just said. Like, you know, you do your best. You know, I've never had a baby, and I imagine that's really hard, but trying to keep somewhat of a schedule or a routine, I think, is probably one of the more important things. Because if you're, you know, training 3 times 1 week, 1 day the next, the week after that you don't train at all, and then you go back to 3 days a week, you're just not doing yourself any favors recovery-wise. So trying to keep it nice and consistent, I think, would be the best thing. Even if you go in, you get 30 minutes a day. That's way better than, you know, going for these really long workouts sporadically over time.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately it's a mindset thing,
yes.
You know, and I know a little bit like you're not going to be able to train like you were when you weren't a parent,
yeah.
You know, and you're going to have to manage your intensity, and you're going to have to be okay with doing less. It's priority.
Yeah.
Right. That's just the way it is. That's what we talk about all the time. That's why when you're 40, it's different than when you're 25 because of the other stressors and responsibilities we typically have in life.
Just way more stuff to worry about.
Yeah, so you just have to do less, be okay with the less baseline, and just maximize that, and realize, you may not be able to train for certain levels of fitness,
but keeping your base level is going to be way more beneficial. You know, I'm sure you'll have more time as your kids get older, and you know you have more freedom, and they can do stuff on their own. Like, so if you keep your base level, like you're gonna be okay, rather than just not doing anything.
And focus on things like we talk about this all the time. A lot of people put so much emphasis on the training, but you know, you may not be able to train as intense or as much as you want, but managing your food intake actually takes no extra time. So you can maybe focus on that a little more. So you're getting less sleep. Well, let me be more on top of my nutrition and planning things and that kind of stuff, right? So, and then you may be able to get in actually better shape body composition wise, but even though you're doing less training, because you're able to kind of finagle things to focus on your nutrition more, even though you're also dealing with having to have a child, right? And less sleep and things like that. So, you know, focus on what you can control, manage those intensities, stressors, things like that. And again, it's going to be a mindset thing to where you have to shift and be okay with doing less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Priorities. All right. Then we have from David, fruit and veggie requirements. So, David,
is a hot topic.
Also asked a couple weeks ago about like the fruit and veggie colors, you know, the different
taste the rainbow.
So I see where, you know, I know David's like really stressing something, whether, you know, there was some recommendation or just trying to be perfect with these things. So for one, I would say, look, no one really ultimately knows, right? Like, and it's all context dependent. Think about it. These are problems trying to have some perfect amount of, say, fruit and veggie requirements that only exist because we're created this environment where we're lucky enough to, you can go to the grocery store and there's
literally everything you could ever want.
I mean, go to a couple other countries or parts of the country or different time periods, and if you lived in a more northern climate, you may have access to 0 colored fruits and veggies for 8 months out of the year, right? So it wasn't something you even could worry about. And the reality is, we know that there's through observational studies and things like that there seems to be, there's like a net positive to eating fruits and veggies, right? So it could be the fiber content and it helps you eat less of other foods. It could be the phytonutrients from some of the different colors. But let's just say we know, okay, those things are probably positive. So any kind of guidelines is really just like, hey, you should probably eat some of these things. But whether you have 2 or 4 or 6, it's probably not going to matter, right? And if you're forcing it and it's not sustainable, what does it matter?
Or if you're stressing about it all the time, you're probably getting more negative from the stress than you are actually eating the fruits and vegetables anyways.
Yeah. So really, find some you enjoy and eat them, right? Some people might like more and eat more. Some people might just eat some.
And some people might find that it's not a whole lot of effort for them to get a wide variety, and that's cool. I know the both of us don't want to buy a bunch of fresh vegetables, every week and figure out how to fit them into a meal. It's just, honestly, it's too much work for me, and I don't feel like doing it, nor would I probably consistently do it. So I have my staples. I buy those, and I'm cool with it. And it may rotate, throughout the year. Y'all have different things, and I'm good with that. Yeah. It's good enough.
But if you have, a piece of fruit and some veggies with each meal, I mean, if you varied them, well, there's 6 right there, so that's going to be plenty.
Exactly.
Believe the updated recommendations are try to have 5 servings of fruit and or veggies, right?
Yeah, just combined.
And a serving, a lot of times, half a cup of berries. That's nothing. Most people
it's really not much.
Eat a cup, right? Half a cup or a cup of leafy greens or something. Whereas if you made a salad, you're normally using 3 cups. So it's really, if you just think of it as simple as have some fruit or veg with each meal. If you're eating 3 meals a day, that's going to be anywhere between 3 to 6 servings.
Which I would say is enough.
It's going to be fine, right? And if you want more, it's fruit and veg, have more.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to eat 12 apples.
But this is where it is context dependent. What if someone undereats or they train a ton and they have very high calorie demands? Well, then you may find trying to eat 6, 7, 8 servings of fruit and veg makes it harder to meet your calorie demands, right? So in that context, you might need to eat a little less. Or you could be someone who's dieting and you have to eat less calories, and more fruit and veg is higher volume, lower calorie food. It's going to help you feel more full, more satiated, and maybe eating a ton more is helpful. So, don't, again, it's corny, but we talk about it all the time, progress, not perfection. So it's,
some
whether
both.
you have 5 servings or 3 servings every day throughout your life, it's not going to be.
That's not going to be your difference maker.
Yeah,
but having 0 versus 3, probably would be a little bit of a difference maker.
Yeah.
So just have some and don't stress about it.
Yep.
That's it.
Try
to include.
Remember things like potatoes and stuff are vegetables too. So,
yeah, and they're super nutrient dense. They have a pretty good amount of nutrients in them.
Yeah, so find the ones you enjoy, eat some,
and live your life.
And remember, the biggest correlation to nutrition being healthy is that ultimately majority of the health benefits that they know are connected to your body weight, body composition, right? So when you go to the doctor, that's what they've learned. That's what we know. An improved body composition is improved blood markers, improved health markers, lower risk of diseases and cancers. So a healthy diet is one that helps you obtain and maintain a healthy body composition. So it probably does include some fruits and veggies because, again, they're higher in fiber. This helps you manage your food intake more. So really that's the main goal, is to try to find a diet that you enjoy, is sustainable, it helps you maintain a good body composition. So whether that's 3 servings of fruit and veg or 8, right? just eat some and
be okay with where
be
you
okay
land.
with it. So hopefully that helps. Moving on. Valerie asks, out in old Coastal member, Valerie McLean. She's out in Germany. Germany. She asks, injuries. Are some people more injury prone because of lack of sleep, poor nutrition, poor recovery, etc.? Yes.
Yeah.
So
for all of those reasons.
And more, which we'll go into. So obviously, yeah, if you have less, and all this comes down to recovery, right? So lack of sleep, poor nutrition, and then she says poor recovery. Yeah, these things all lend themselves to poor recovery. So realize when you are training, playing a sport, doing something active, and you're breaking your body down, and then it has to repair and recover, come back stronger, better. But if you're always breaking yourself down, you're not completely repairing. You're more
prone. Like you're, so to speak, chipping away at yourself.
And I was actually discussing with someone yesterday or the day before about, that's why I think you see like all these injuries in high school, college, pro sports, because now, there's social media. So now players are like, oh, well, they're playing their sport, they're practicing for their sport, and then they're training and they want to show, oh, I'm training harder and more than everyone else. No days, hashtag no days off,
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you see ACLs and stuff getting torn left and right, and people just aren't recovering. And
100%.
it makes them more injury prone, right?
Yeah,
so
straight up.
As far as what we can control, that is a bigger, and then as you age, that's another factor we can't control, but then people do not take it into account.
No.
So we age, we don't recover as well. You may be doing more or less rest. And again, so that's, now you have the factor of poor sleep, poor nutrition, poor recovery, and you're older. Now you're more,
you're way more likely.
Now you're more injury prone. And then some people just, your God-given structure and nature is going to make you injury prone, right? Like you can look at someone's wrists and elbows, right? And if someone has a little teeny bone structure, and this could go both ways, right?
Were you looking at both of our wrists when you said that?
So if someone has small joints and bones, and they try to do a sport like CrossFit or football or something that's higher impact, you're going to be more injury prone than someone who's more robust. Same thing though, flip it. Look at runners, right?
Yeah.
So smaller bone structure, things like that are going to make you less injury prone with the sport like running. Whereas then if someone's,
has big joints, they're usually a little bit thicker.
Big bones,
they have a little more muscle.
More weight, they're going to be more injury prone for something like running. So another big factor in that is what's the activity, what's your natural body types and body structure, and how's it going to lend itself to that?
100%.
You see this a lot with sports at a high level. Watch the Olympics and all these niche sports, and really half the battle is
how you're born.
Yeah. Like does your, a perfect example, people would always, especially in the 80s when we were learning a lot, you have like ballerinas or whatever. And is that who they're long and lean, right? Or then people start associating, stretching with being long and lean and kind of like the ballerina. Oh, if I do that, I'm gonna get that body type. No.
They're literally just born that way.
And that body type lends itself to that activity.
Yes.
Right? So same thing, like swimmers. Ooh, swimmers have such broad shoulders and they're so, long and lean.
And people think that it makes you broad, whereas no, they're just better at it than everybody else, so they're going to rise to the top.
Yeah. Gymnasts. Ooh, at one point they're like, gymnastics it probably stunts your growth or whatever. And but then people too think, gymnastics will make you super jacked. But the reality is no, people who are just happen to be really short
and stocky
and muscular, naturally maybe build muscle easier, end up being the best gymnast in the world, right? So, but then if you go take someone who's 6'4" and try to get them to do all that flipping stuff,
it's just not going to work.
Going to get hurt sooner than someone who's 5'4", right? So the taller person's more injury prone because of the activity and their body structure. And then if you factor in poor nutrition, poor sleep, then
it's even more factors.
Exponentially more factors. So it's really being honest with the situation and everything. So, Hopefully that makes more sense. But also too, I think sometimes maybe people will run into stuff a lot and think it's maybe it's my diet and my sleep but sometimes the reality is just like, well, what are you trying to do? What are the realities of the situation? I mean, that's, how would be with CrossFit. Like I just would break. I would not I would not be able to survive that type
I don't have
of
the joints
training,
for it, man.
All the, like my wrist, dude, I can get down and demonstrate a push-up and my wrist can go out to where I can't even do a push-up. It's just like it gives.
We got these little,
so you talk about
10-year-old boy
power
wrists.
cleaning and snatching day in and day out.
Not for me.
Nah.
Know your limits.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late. So having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
That was a good one. Let's move on. We got
2 tickets to paradise.
Matt Skolowski.
I'm gonna assume you butchered that name. What's the question?
I know Matt, he reaches out, stays in touch, IG. He asked how to get back to lifting after not going to the gym for a while. Tips and tricks to get back at it. So this one, we touch on a lot, and we'll have to be a little more tough love.
Yeah.
Really, you just gotta get back to it.
You gotta just show up.
Because part of the problem is that, like, kind of having to ask this question, then hopefully hoping to hear some motivating answer, you're actually almost reinforcing the pattern of
not going
and always needing motivation to go.
Yeah.
Whereas the reality is just like, you're not always going to be motivated.
No.
So we use this analogy all the time. It's like, it has to be like brushing your teeth. What if you miss a day or two of brushing your teeth? You don't search for otherworldly reasons. Now, obviously, brushing your teeth, you do it at home, it takes 2 minutes. But
still, it's still something you should do routinely and should just be a part of your day. And I think that's why it makes a good analogy.
So I know for me, it's just having a deeper why and knowing that. So yeah, I know that exercise, resistance training, strength training helps you age slower. It helps keep you healthy, your bones, your joints, your ligaments, your muscles over the long term. And there's just so many benefits that are known for, again, the duration of your life. There's no, like, it's not even a thought to not do it, right? Even when I'm not motivated, I can have stretches of 2-3 months where it's just,
it's just whatever,
going through it, right? But I know this is a habit I want to do long term. So when you have those deeper whys, it just like with brushing your teeth,
makes it a lot easier.
No one wants tooth decay, right? So you're just going to brush your teeth.
Or bad breath.
And think about it, it's easier when we're younger to work out because everyone associates it with looking better and everything. So when you're younger, it's like, I want to find someone to be with. So you have these deeper whys.
And that's always there. Yeah, it makes it easy.
So as we age and move on from some of those things, you have to find other deep whys. And yeah, it's not that are beyond surface motivation type things. Because if you rely on that, it's just it's not always going to be there. So you have to kind of find those.
You have to have a reason to do it. And then again, dude, just like get there.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Show up.
Just show up.
You know, whether that's, so another one is, I mean, and we just say this because this is what we see it, how we see it play out. Maybe you need to invest more in it, right?
Yeah.
You know,
pay somebody.
Our gym, Coastal Strength and Fitness, it's like group training. It's not the cheapest option, right? So, but we get people all the time with Planet Fitness memberships, right? So, but they weren't using it.
They're like, oh, I never used this.
Because $10 for some people, it's nothing. It's nothing. You can let that go. Now all of a sudden, $150, $167, $200. Well, you're going to go.
Yeah. If you're paying that much money, you're going to use it.
And that's one of the magics to these, you know, like Coastal Strength and Fitness and Orange Theory and personal training is a big part of the magic. People are more invested. And it's a threshold of investment, a threshold of money to where you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another tip or trick. It's like, well, how much of a priority is it? Because if you do think it's a priority, maybe you need to invest more in it and invest less somewhere else. You know, and find, hey, these are the priorities. And if you look, a lot of times you could look at someone's spending and probably pick out the things they prioritize most in life, right? So that would be my tip or trick. And I say that too, is I'm always investing in learning, and I hire coaches for my workout plans when I'm not motivated, because I'm like, well, if I'm paying someone to write it, I'm gonna do it. So
yeah, I think that's a really good one.
That's literally something that we do as coaches ourselves, and the products that we offer, we've seen over the years, the more invested people are, the better results they get, the more consistent they are. Point blank, that's just, it stands out. So I would look to invest and find a deeper why.
Yeah, ask yourself why. Ask yourself a couple times why you want to do it.
All right.
What do we got?
Mr. Robbie V on Instagram.
Robbie V.
Roberto. So, Roberto, good question. He asks, how working out will boost your self-confidence and make a positive impact in your life? Now, this one can probably be...
This one's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is like the ultimate... I mean, this is why I started doing it. I was feeling down in the dumps and always somewhat small and insecure and all those things. So then I start working out, and you get results, and you follow a plan, and you see it works. And, you know, obviously there's like outward physical things that happen. Like maybe, you have more muscle, and that makes you feel more confident, and you feel like you look better and feel better. And then also there's just like chemical things that go on in your brain, right? Like we've been listening a lot to the Dr. Huberman, who's a neuro professor at Stanford, and very interesting podcast. Goes into all the details of that, but yes, like this kind of stuff changes the gray matter of your brain and the way you think and the way you're wired
and the way you feel all the time.
So yeah, like how working out will boost your self-confidence and make a positive impact in your life. It does through tons of different ways. So like we said,
you look better
neurologically. There's literally affects how you think. And then also just, how you feel, how you look, it's going to impact those things.
And then I think for a lot of people, knowing that they're capable is an important part of it too. You know, like, you know, for a lot of people, just knowing that they can do really anything they need to do physically in life. And, you know, that may be picking stuff up, playing with their kids, going for a hike, and coming back and being like, I just did a hike and everybody else was dying, and I like felt like it wasn't anything. And knowing that everything that you did helped you get to that point just makes you feel able. And I think that's a big one for people, you know?
Yeah. And I'll be honest too, and especially nowadays, you know, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, because now the problem with is comparison.
Yeah.
You know, and social media. So maybe someone will start working out and then they don't look how someone else looks, or and they're comparing themselves, and they will actually lower their self-confidence
or I'll never get to where they're at. Well,
and have a negative impact. I've even heard from people who they maybe go to a really competitive gym, right, where all the workouts are timed and they're going to do this, or here's the workout, here's the version for people that can't do the original one, and they end up, it has negative effects because they're going to the gym every day
like crap.
I'm not good enough, I can't do these things. And so comparison, what do they say, is like the thief of joy. So I will say, yes, it does all these things, and then the caveat to that is, do not compare yourself to others. Focus on your journey,
just improving
just
yourself.
You, and that is the key to the second part of the question, which is having a positive impact on your life, because it can have a negative impact. Or if you always put all your eggs in the basket of like, or you choose a sport, CrossFit, powerlifting, triathlons, and then everything starts to become time to a score, a weight, a time.
And then all of your self-worth and everything's tied to your performance and your time and how much weight you're doing. And that can be a real slippery slope to get on.
Yeah, and I know people that happens, right? So, actually now that we talk it out, it's not as obvious as it is. So I think the key is, yes, it definitely will do amazing things, but you now have to guard against
the influence on the rest of the world.
Overdoing it, comparisons and these kind of things, to kind of then find yourself in that positive impact place. So
focus on yourself.
Focus on yourself. Do it. Again, it's going to help you look better, feel better, move better. All those things are going to have a positive impact, boost your confidence. And the great thing is, it's not just like a fake placebo thing going on. It's legit,
it's
real change in your brain, your thought process, how you approach things, and all that good stuff. And then also too, it would normally have an impact on the ones you love. Like they'll see you doing these things, and that also has a, helping people you care about has a positive impact. So then we have, let's see. All right, Kyle. My man Kyle.
What do you got, Kyle?
IG. K-Dub Canada. He asks, the ideal minimalist push-pull legs arms split that worked for you, sets, reps, and rest periods.
It's a lot of.
So for one thing, I'll say, most of all these things don't matter.
Everything
per
works.
se. I would want to say what works for me. It ultimately works for me because I enjoy it and it's sustainable. So even push-pull legs, arms split. That's not something I even actually do much. I've done it a little. I just typically would do push-pull legs. But whether someone does push-pull legs, arms, or upper, lower, or full body. If you hate it, you're not going to like it. You're not going to be consistent. It's not going to work for you. So just because it worked for me, or that's the situation, right? Now, obviously, if someone's like a pro bodybuilder trying to max it, there's like details, but I'm not.
For us,
to be fit for life and these things. So if that's who I'm going to talk to. So the question: ideal minimalist, pull, push, legs, arm split that worked for me. Again, like everything's works, it really just comes down to what you like. And minimalist, so that's, less exercises. Again, that's another personal thing, right? Like I prefer, some people might not like that. But let's, assume, okay, someone's looking for that.
Best bang for your buck.
I would say, and again, so much of this comes down to more enjoyable, sustainable. So I prefer less exercises because there's less to, you can pour more of your energy into less and get better at less.
I'm
right?
the same way.
We even see this at Coastal. If we have workouts that, have too many complicated exercises, people are going to be overwhelmed and distracted, right?
And they're not going to push on really anything.
So the reason I would do that is because, so I'll say four exercises in general per workout, right? So, but sometimes then you have little stuff. So 5, but yeah, 4 to 5 is what I like personally. And push pull legs, arms. He may have seen where I was doing that at one point somewhat recently, but really that was actually a compromise of my workout partner likes to work out 4 days a week. I prefer 3. And then so we normally would do where we do push pull legs and rotate, like so it'd be like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and we rolled through push pull legs in those 4 days. But Saturday morning at the gym, it's packed, and if like push day lands on a Saturday,
there's no chance.
It's
man.
awful. Like everyone's like using all that stuff. So we added the arms in because so we could just kind of have a day. It's like whatever, you're going in, you're really getting a pump, bicep, tricep stuff. Like we don't have to stress over
finding a bench.
Yeah,
and
it's more enjoyable, right? So it's funny. Like again, most of my decisions are not made off of 100% what is the most efficient,
ideal
results producing. It's more like at the end of the day too, I just work out because I
you enjoy it.
So yeah, actually, if I had to answer like what is the ideal split that's worked for me, it would not be push pull legs arms because I mean just a whole arm day typically it's just I don't need it, right? Like it's not going to make that big of a difference.
No.
So for me, push pull legs 3 days a week, just rotating through them, with about 4 exercises focused on 2 sets, typically working up to a heavy all out set with 1 back off set in a 6 to 12 rep range.
Perfect.
When I can do a weight for 12 reps on exercise, I go up in weight and then work that weight through that range until I can eventually do it for 10, 12 again.
Boom.
Sticking with the same exercises for the most part, so you can get efficient at them, be confident with them. Yeah, and then just progressive overload over long periods of time. And then sets, reps. So yeah, sets, like I said, 2 per exercise. Really some warm-ups, working up to the main top set, then going a little lighter, backing off for a second set. Reps 6 to 12. Rest periods longer for sure. 3 minutes.
I do 3 minutes before a work set, and then like I'll do like 90 seconds between warm-ups, 3 before a work.
And it depends
rear
on
foot
the
exercise.
elevated split squats, 4, 5, 6 minutes sometimes. If my heart's pumping.
And I'll rest between legs as well. Yeah. So
tricep extensions.
Sometimes you don't need 5 minutes between that.
So, a lot of it's like what kind like
it's
how's
context.
your heart rate, things like that.
Yeah.
But in general, preface it by saying most of my decisions are made off of, well, what do I'll take, okay, what's optimal, and then I'll be like, well, what do I find that middle ground of what's sustainable for me? So that as close to ideal that's worked for me as a regular dude, not great genetics, not awful genetics, but so yeah, push pull legs, hitting each of those once a week, focus on progressive overload, 2 sets, each exercise, 6 to 12 reps, 2 to 4 minutes rest.
That's it. Boom.
Then we have from Whit Kent.
Ooh.
You know her?
This will be juicy.
Whitney Kent. Cookie Savant on Instagram. That's not her Instagram name.
No.
She is a cookie savant.
She is.
What's her Instagram? It's like, damn.
The Cozy Cookie. Jesus. Cozy Cookie VA.
Cozy Cookie. She asks, phone apps that you find helpful or maybe not helpful, like MyFitnessPal, weight tracker, step counter, things like that. And so it's a great question. We could almost have done a whole episode.
We could do a whole episode on this too.
So even beyond just the specific things, in general, here's kind of the stance with trackers, right? So, and we've been over this. Wasn't there a book too that talked about?
Yeah, it was Brian McKenzie, I think, that had a book on. Was it called Unplugged?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's one negative thing with all these trackers and technology, is it moves us further and further away from internal cues.
Absolutely.
So
you become so overly reliant on technology that you're not checking in on yourself and how you actually feel. You're just like, the watch told me I feel this way.
Yeah. And then you also have to follow through with what the watch is telling you. So I know like the Whoop band. So there's a Whoop band or an Aura ring, which tracks your HRV, heart rate variability, which is supposed to kind of tell you, hey, how your readiness to train at a certain intensity that day.
Yep.
And if you can't just say, oh, this thing tells me I'm 95%, yeah, let's do that. Let's train hard today. You'll listen to it when it tells you what you want to hear. And then one day it could tell you 5%.
And you're like,
and you still,
well, I'll still do it.
And you still go train hard or whatever. So that's not going to be helpful. But then too, a lot of times if you just listen to your body, the cues it's giving you,
you'll know.
You can listen to your digestion, to your sleep, to your mood, those kind of things, and get some answers. If you start relying on technology for everything, you lose touch of those cues. That's why, so me personally, the only thing I use, I have gone on and off and noticed a benefit in tracking my steps, right? But I've also at one point had like the watch and stuff gets too overwhelming, too much. So I have it on my phone. Now, obviously I miss stuff if I don't always have my phone with me, but what I noticed, if I don't, because the way my day is, a lot of computer work, if I don't really force myself to go on walks, I'll get like only 3,000 steps a day. But when I then look at my counter on my phone and see I'm only at that,
it's a reminder.
It helps me, okay, I'm going to go out and get some steps. And it gives me just enough accountability to, for the most part, get where I want to be. I have a goal of 10,000, and I normally end up between 8 and 12. And that's good. Now, where it got in trouble was when we had that group for the gym.
The step challenge.
And there's always going to be people who push it into a major competition. And then I got competitive, and I'm just like, I got to get 20, I got to get 25 or whatever. And you just almost lose yourself in it,
and you
right?
just do steps all day. It's like you're just walking all the time to get a number.
Then you're only getting 15 and you're feeling down. When the reality is like, wait, what did I even, what was the point of this to begin with? So for me, then that wasn't helpful. That was a negative. So personally, track calories, that can be helpful, but it shouldn't be something someone does all the time forever. Me, I don't love it. I mean, so I'd prefer to eat the same stuff, so I don't have to track it once. I kind of know where my base is at, and then I don't have to track it again unless I majorly change things. So people starting out, it's very helpful for learning.
Yeah, to know like how much am I actually eating and how much should I eat as well, because if you have no earthly idea and you're eating 4,000 calories, well, we need to see where you need to be.
Yeah.
And you need to feel what that feels like too.
Yeah.
So it can be helpful. It's almost like looking in a mirror when you exercise. It can be helpful for you to become aware. But if you become over reliant on, say, the mirror while you're working out, it's going to detract from what you're doing. And
so some people are like super type A, super data driven, and they can be really good at just collecting data and knowing it's just data, right? So in a lot of those people, they can use this stuff for very much benefit and very little downfall because they're able to do that.
And they separate a lot of the emotion from it, and they just act on the data.
Yeah, a lot of people, it becomes
too much.
They can't do that, right? So they end up, the tracker kind of becomes like a chore, So it's like, oh, I have to do this to lose weight. I have to track my calories. I have to track my steps to lose weight. So now it's almost like you hold a grudge against it. You may think like, it may overwhelm just exercise. So you start to tie all these things in with exercise and eating and
how many calories you burn during a workout.
Create a disdain. Yeah.
And then you start thinking like, well, that wasn't enough calories. It was a bad workout. And then there's a negative connotation to something that should be a great thing. And unless you hit this astronomical number of calories burned, it was a bad thing for you. And that's not a very healthy mindset to have. So that's the opposite of helpful.
Yeah. So really you'll see, and similar to a lot of the other questions, the answers are like, it depends and maybe, right?
Always.
And it's really about finding what works for you. Again, so for me, now that I think about it, I track my calories, but only really just to get an idea and have a base, right? Yep. It's not something I do every day. I use my Fitness Pal for that. I track my steps, but really just to keep an eye on them. I don't
you don't obsess
go
over
through the
hitting
day
a
and be
number.
like, I have to, I just kind of see, I'm going to need to go on more walks, right?
I do the exact same
thing.
thing.
I use just whatever's on my phone for that. And then what was the other one I was thinking of? Crap. Oh, I track my workouts with an app called Strong, where I log like my top sets and things like that. But I'm very good at it's just data. It gives me something
this
to
is what I
compare
did
to.
today.
I don't really like lose. I don't lose sleep over it. It's not the end of the world. It's not. It's just data for me to over time be able to see hopefully the trend, things trending where I want. And I am more type A. I like this data. Like I like to look back 14 months ago and I can see what my workout was, have an idea of how many calories I was eating and what I weighed. And that data is helpful and nice for me, right? Because I'm very good at it's just data. Where someone else is going to drive them nuts. And then some of the other things that are out there. So you have your calorie trackers. With those, the one thing we would suggest no one doing is tracking your calories burned.
Oh God, yeah.
There's just
it's
nothing
just
good.
Dangerous.
It's not
man.
correct. B, it's not
worth the stress.
There's just
there's no reason to do it.
Nothing good will come from it.
Yeah. So don't try to make up for the calories you burned with your food because you're going to be juggling more things than you can imagine.
And then more popular, some of the newer stuff is like the Whoop bands, the Oura rings, and those track a bunch of stuff. Your sleep,
your readiness.
So all these sleep trackers. Again, I do not use them because it starts to get too stressful. Those do for me, and I don't really have trouble sleeping. So that kind of data, I feel like would actually make my sleep worse. Because then now I'm like...
Then you go to bed and you're like, I hope I sleep well.
Yeah, and then maybe I get competitive with it,
Yeah.
So, but if it's something where tracking that, so now you're prioritizing it, and you do then create a better sleep routine, and you're prioritizing your sleep, like that could be super helpful. So for me, it's like that is not helpful.
Yeah.
But for someone else, that can be the difference maker, right? So that neither person is right or wrong. So it's understanding and maybe experimenting and seeing for you how it goes. And I've done that before in some of the early stuff that it did track your sleep, and it just was too much. I was just like worried, stressing over it, right? But yes, these Oura rings and Whoop bands track your sleep, give you a heart rate variability score to kind of tell you your readiness for your day. So the other problem with that, which again might not be a problem for some people, but I just like kind of having set days to know. And this is where, honestly, a lot of the stuff is better for people with higher level goals, and athletes, and maybe have more flexibility over, because, now what if I love working out on Mondays, right? And it sets my tone of my week. So now what if my Whoop band tells me it's like I'm down and then I can't train on Monday? Well, now I'm sad because I can't train. When the reality is okay, well, if I was, maybe I need to not train so hard the day or two before, or just manage those things. And I do that by kind of doing the minimum effective dose. Maybe erring on the side of doing a little less so that I just never enter a state of
not ready,
of overwhelm. Whereas if you're pushing things, you're leaning the other way. You're leaning towards overwhelm, and you got to watch that more.
You have more of a chance of that not ready score.
And those can be more helpful to know. And I need to take today off. But you're also pushing those limits a little more. So that could be where those Oura rings, Whoop bands are super helpful. And so now you're tracking your heart rate 24/7. You're tracking your sleep every instance. All those things, right?
That's too much for me personally.
So between all those things, they can be good or bad, right or wrong for an individual. I would recommend experimenting and seeing. I think they're good in a general sense because they help bring awareness, prioritizing these things a bit. But you may find, you need that at first, and then you don't. And maybe it becomes too overwhelming. There's too much, comparing. There's too much
if
data.
you find that you're becoming obsessive with it, or there's stress that's being brought on you by this tracking, it's probably not a good idea. But if you enjoy it and you find it super helpful and it doesn't bother you during your day, it just, it aids you, I would say do it.
Yeah. And on a general starting point, I think most people benefit from a step tracker, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, just keep your base, because then you're getting this, same amount of movement every day almost, Try to find a range and just shoot for it, and it'll just be a reminder, for Gary to be a little more active.
Yeah.
If you're a super active person, for me, myself and Diego, who, coach during the week, I'm always going to hit my steps no matter what. Unless I don't go to work my steps are good.
Yeah.
You know, like I yesterday hit 22,000 before noon coaching. So for me, like I don't really need to check in on it as long as I'm going to work.
Yeah. Whereas, for me, if I don't purposely go on walks, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And same thing, like Whitney's the same way. If she doesn't if we don't go for a walk after dinner or something like that, she's probably just not going to hit her step goal. And she has to be a little more aware of that because she doesn't walk all day like I do.
Mm-hmm. So I think that covers it.
I think that does. We got like 3 podcast topics that we need to turn those or 3 questions we need to turn into full podcast episodes clearly. Sleep hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other one?
That was the main one.
Yeah, that was the main one. We'll do that one. That'll be a fun one.
Make sure we got them all here. I closed it. Now I gotta.
Now you gotta fish through.
Boom.
Way to go.
All right, we had fruit, veg. I think that's all of them. Yeah. So great questions.
Yeah.
As always.
Hopefully our answers helped.
We'll do more Q&As more frequently. They're fun. Quick hitters.
Yeah.
If you think of anything, hit us up. You can message us on Instagram or whatever. Follow us. We'll post on our stories asking for questions.
Questions. Yeah.
Till we meet again.
See ya. As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.